Welcome everybody. Got a couple of people still coming in, but just want to welcome you to the Ottawa Green Future Talks. I might got the name wrong there because I've been trying to repeat it in my head over and over. So thank you all very much for joining us for the Retrofits Basics Workshop. I will warn you, this is a basics workshop. So any of our building engineers out there, this may be a little basic for you, but hopefully we've got some good content to share. So I guess for the sake of time, we're just about a minute in. I'm going to start by sharing my screen and we will get started. So now for the awkward silence while we start to share. And there we go. And sharing. So unless I hear any different, then I assume everybody can see my screen. So again, here we are today to talk about retrofit basics. So for those of us who don't know who we are, we work for Enviro Centre. Enviro Centre is a local nonprofit organization, and our mission is to provide people, communities, and organizations solutions to lighten their environmental impact in lasting ways. And our mission is dramatic reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, which are achieved through inspired environmental action and positive change. We work in three main areas, the first being green homes, the other green communities, and then green business. So this is part of our green business series. So who is Mel? That's a lot of information. I won't. Mel Johnston. I'm the Director of Energy Services at Enviro Centre, and I've been with the group for over 10 years, and I manage our energy team. So I myself have helped to retrofit well over 9,000 homes in Ontario, both for private and for social housing groups. And the savings for all of those retrofits are well over 9 million cubic meters of natural gas. I also manage a team of energy advisors who go out and do energy audits, and we actually do all of the work around retrofitting low-income homes in Eastern Ontario. So today we're going to cover a few things: why we need to retrofit, types of retrofits, and the steps on how to get there. So why? On April 24th of 2019, the City of Ottawa declared climate emergency. They developed a group called Energy Evolution and have set aggressive reduction of greenhouse gas emissions targets. They want to set those reduction targets through existing homes, new homes, transportation, and waste. So really the important thing to know here is that in Ottawa, existing homes make up 22% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And part of the targets that the city have set is to retrofit 27% of dwellings by 2030 and 98% of dwellings by 2050. That's well over 330,000 homes. So we've got to get started. And so today we'll talk about really, again, the basics of what retrofitting actually means. So there are different types of retrofits. The thing to keep in mind is the first step is always conservation. So as we know, we need to move off of fossil fuels to get to these aggressive reduction targets. But the first thing we have to do is start to actually reduce our consumption. So by conserving energy, we won't overload our grid and have to create gas-fired electricity plants. So really very, very key. So a lighting retrofit is an easy way to get started. Not only will you save money, you will have actually some improved lighting. And by replacing your light bulbs with LED, you will use 75% less energy per year. On average, an average home, somewhere between $300 and $600 of savings as well on that side of things. So starting with your lighting, you'll immediately start to see a reduction in electricity use. And then we move on to appliance retrofits, which is something that a lot of people don't really think about, but certainly moving to Energy Star is key. I was talking with somebody recently about the benefits of having a gas stove, and anybody who's a foodie and really likes cooking will often really gravitate towards a gas stove. And by switching that out to an induction stove, you're actually going to save about 50% of your energy use, and you still get the amazing cooking experience of being able to, adjust your temperature, and it activates quite quickly. So it's the same experience as cooking with gas, but you're saving a ton of electricity. So anytime you're replacing an appliance, make sure you're looking for the Energy Star sticker, and that will guarantee that you're going to see a reduction in the energy consumed. And then smart systems. Smart systems are beneficial in multiple ways. They start to learn your behaviors. So as you adjust them, coming and going, they will start to anticipate your needs and will often have the ability to adjust themselves. The other key benefit, in my opinion, is the fact that you actually have a visual display. So where you are literally actually watching your energy use, and that can have a big impact on your behavior. I always use the example, a few years ago, we had a system put in, and all of a sudden at 2 o'clock in the morning, I noticed I got a little alarm and I started using way more energy. Turns out it was my teenage son who had gotten up in the middle of the night to play video games. So I guess there's some benefits all around there. And as I've said, by using one of these systems, you're going to average about a 30 to 40% energy savings per year. So again, all of those steps will reduce the amount of electricity that you are generally using in the home. And these are all types of retrofits. So when you hear people talking about retrofits, it doesn't always mean the whole building. Sometimes it can mean small components. There are lots of different services available for you, partners in the industry, and I'll share some of those resources later for information on how you can start to retrofit your systems. So along the same lines with conservation, we need to tighten up our building envelopes. So, when people are undergoing a renovation, we're often looking at finishes, we're looking at countertops and flooring, and those are the things that are making a decision. A lot of times people don't think that insulation is sexy. I, on the other hand, do. I find it incredibly sexy and very warming. So something I'm extremely passionate about, which is a weird thing to be passionate about. 10 years ago, I don't think I would have said that, but everything that I've learned since working at Enviro Centre has made me really focus on this building envelope. So typically what you're looking at doing is increasing your attic insulation to code. So current code about R51, maybe as high as R60 with the new code coming out. And if you're living in an older home, you may have very little, like R6 insulation in your attic. So the more insulation you're adding, obviously, the less heat you're losing through your roof. Foundation is also pretty key. You can do lots of different retrofits for your foundation. If you've got a finished basement, probably a good idea to have a look behind those finishings and see if there's actually insulation there. And again, depending on the age of your home, anything built before 1978 did not actually require any insulation in your foundation. 1980 or so, we started seeing the top 3 feet of your foundation being insulated. That's the part that sticks out of the ground where you're going to get the most air leakage. And then, of course, in the 90s, we started seeing the insulation going full height. And again, there's lots of different systems you can use for this insulation. You can use fiberglass, you can use spray foam, you can use foam board. There are environmentally friendly choices to use as well. And so really key to ensure that you're not seeing air leaking out of your foundation, especially the part that's sticking up out of the ground. And then, of course, your exterior walls, very important. Again, depending on the age of your home, we find houses in Eastern Ontario built in the early 60s or early 50s with no insulation in the walls. So at that time, you're going to want to probably use a drill and fill application. A reputable contractor will be able to advise you on the best way to do it, depending on the construction of your home. So it depends on how far apart your joists are, it depends how far apart your framing is, and it depends on the exterior and interior cladding of your home, the best approach. but often we see really great success in a retrofit model with a drill and fill cellulose. And cellulose is also an extremely environmentally friendly product. It is actually recycled paper, which is treated so that it does not catch on fire or get moldy, and is an excellent insulator. And in a lot of cases in Ottawa, it's actually quite local. So you're not seeing the embodied carbon that maybe you might see in some other forms of insulation. I do think it's important as you're considering your retrofit journey to consider the materials that you're using. A lot of spray foams are amazing and they do a great job of creating that air barrier so that you're not actually losing any heat or cool. But at the same time, the embodied carbon and the disposal of the canisters can actually be quite an impact on the environment. So I often recommend that when you're getting your 3 quotes from your contractors, that you do actually ask about the environmental impact of the materials you're using. The main benefit of tightening up your building envelope outside of comfort, of course, because nobody wants a leaky, drafty home, is actually that once you've tightened up your envelope and you start to look at replacing mechanicals, you'll have the right sized equipment. So if you've got an older, leakier home and you've got a furnace contractor coming out to look at the house, they're going to size that equipment based on the existing conditions within the home and the amount of air and natural air that you're getting into the house. So you need a much larger system. As you start to tighten the building envelope, you start to notice that your ventilation requirements change and that you're actually able to move on to smaller systems. So some examples of mechanicals would be a high efficiency system. So again, if you're staying on fossil fuels, certainly looking at the most efficient furnace that you can get for your money is key. That being said, we need to move off of fossil fuels. That's going to have the biggest impact in our GHG reductions. So when you start to talk about fuel switching, that's when we're looking at things like electrification, things like air and ground sourced heat pumps, which are going to generate heat and cool for you using electricity. And if the carbon tax stays around, you'll start to notice that within 5 years, you will most likely be paying 3 times the price you are for natural gas. So when you think about the costs of the ongoing operating costs, moving to electricity now is actually the right choice. The other benefit of some of these heat pump systems is in some older homes where you may not have a central air system, they will provide you with cooling. So I live in a 1950s vet home. We do not have central air. We are in a natural gas furnace. I would like to switch out our system to some air sourced heat pumps, which will then allow me to have both heating and cooling in the summer, which will make a huge difference. And in a lot of case studies, by switching out that equipment, you're actually paying about the same amount of money. So if you're at end of life for your furnace and end of life for your air conditioning system, you can look at the cost comparison and essentially it's a wash. You're going to pay about the same amount of money to have air sourced heat pump installed as you would to purchase those 2 separate mechanical systems. Your GHG reductions are anywhere from 70 to 85%, which is enormous. And your ongoing operating costs are about the same, especially if you think about the delivery of your fuel. There's a lot of surcharges. You're not just paying for the natural gas itself, of course, you're paying for the transportation to your home. And so that is our recommendation essentially is we go through these systems, we start with our conservation, we've tightened up our building envelope, and now we've moved on to mechanicals and fuel switching. Another key thing to keep in mind when we start to talk about mechanicals is actually the ventilation. So now we've increased our building envelope and a system, and it's nice and airtight, but we're not getting the natural air in that we would have previously through those leaks and cracks in the house. And so oftentimes a recommendation would be to increase the ventilation in your home. You can do that through having a heat recovery ventilator, even additional fans in bathrooms and powerful fans in your kitchen will assist with that as well. And that's really important for addressing indoor air quality specifically. You certainly don't want your house being too moist. That can cause things like mold and issues with your natural air. And so certainly when you're looking at your retrofit, it is really important that you think about the house as a system. Everything in your home is working together on the energy side as well as on the health side. So it's important to look at those steps in order. And lastly, the best retrofit is the net zero or net zero ready. So once you've done all of the conservation steps and you've done your envelope and now you've looked at some fuel switching, essentially your home is net zero ready. You're ready to take that next step and move to some renewables. So a net zero home basically creates as much energy as the home consumes. So in this particular case, you have done all of the work and now you're going to start to look at some renewable energy. Solar, obviously very popular and big here in Ottawa, lots of resources. I actually see we've got some partners on the call that have great partners that will be able to provide you with tons of advice on solar. There's many different groups in the Ottawa area, as well as some financing arms. Renewables have come a very long way and are absolutely attainable. So again, I think it's important just to recognize that there are many steps and you're not going to get to net zero before you're net zero ready and before you've looked at your mechanicals and before you've tightened up your building envelope and you've done all of your appliances and lighting. So again, it's a very stepped approach. So how to pay for all of this? That's a great question. Not everybody is made of money. I know I certainly would not be able to address all of these things at one time. So again, looking at the basics of a retrofit, start where you can. I often even say people were suggesting that switching out all of your lights might be pricey. So my advice is when a light bulb burns out, replace it with an LED. When your dryer burns out, replace it with something that is Energy Star. You don't have to do everything at once. All that to say, there are rebates and incentives available. So through the hydro companies specifically, you've got the Save on Energy coupons and rebates that are available for lighting and some appliances as well. So just tune into your local utility for that. Obviously in Ottawa, we're Hydro Ottawa or Hydro One. Hit their website up and you can often print out coupons. They'll highlight retailers that have got sales so that you're able to access that. And of course, on the gas side of things, there are also incentives available for mechanicals as well as building envelope upgrades. So again, if you're on natural gas here in Ottawa, you're most likely an Enbridge customer. They've got the Home Energy Rebate Program, which is going to give you up to $5,000 in rebates for addressing some of these energy efficiency upgrades. And new and coming is the City of Ottawa's Better Homes Loan Program. So we hope that to see this announced in August. Funding has been secured through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and these loans will be zero interest loans available to you if you are looking to, again, do some of these retrofits. Looking again at mechanicals, envelope, anything that is going to decrease the amount of energy that you're using in your home. So these three services are amazing. The NRCan Greener Homes program also, to be announced. I believe a lot of people probably have heard of some press going around about this. We are looking at, again, $5,000 in grants available to Canadians, and 700,000 of those grants are going to be available. The other thing that NRCan is offering are free or rebated energy audits. As we move through my presentation in the next slide or two, you'll see the benefits of having an energy audit. And the federal government has committed to providing these audits to well over 1 million Canadians at basically no charge or at a rebated price. So I encourage you to stay tuned, watch the media. Announcements should be coming shortly for both NRCan Greener Homes and the City of Ottawa's Better Homes Loan Program. So as I have alluded to, really the first step in all of your journey is to get an energy audit. This is an in-home visit with an energy advisor. And again, my advice to anybody is engage, be present, ask lots of questions. These people are well educated on the house as a system. They understand how all these systems work together, and they will want to know what your concerns are. So if you're finding that your home is drafty, if you're concerned about your greenhouse gas emissions and your impact on the environment, if you're looking to save money, these are the things that the energy advisor wants to know so that they can create an upgrade report that is based on your concerns. So of course, they're going going to suggest basically everything that you can do in your home in a stepped approach that will make it more energy efficient. Your report will have a listing of all of the different upgrades you can do, as well as the energy savings associated with them. And for an additional fee, we can actually map your whole route to net zero, along with the costing and the impacts of that, so that you know what the return on investment is. And lastly, as part of that audit, you're going to get the EnerGuide label or a rating. And this is a visual of how your house compares to those across Canada. And it's an important tool so that you understand what your energy rating is. And the goal is obviously to see that rating improve after you've after you've gone through and done some of these retrofits, some or all of these retrofits. So when the energy advisor is there, not only are they going to engage with you, but they're going to take measurements of your whole home. They'll measure the existing insulation levels of your walls, your basement, and your attic. They'll assess the state of your existing doors and windows, a full count of those. As part of the envelope upgrades, of course, the windows and doors are also equally important. I would suggest that increasing your insulation and air leakage have a bigger impact. That being said, if you've got old leaky windows, then moving to Energy Star windows yet again is going to be the most efficient way for you to do that. They're going to record all of your heating and cooling equipment and all of your mechanical systems. They'll take an itemized list of those, the age, state that they're in, any repairs needed. And the last, they'll also have a look at your appliances, and they will look at water as well. So count the fixtures that you've got. Again, reduction can happen with water. So doing some simple things like having a low flow toilet and low flow shower heads, aerators on your taps will all help with saving energy. And then the last thing is the blower door test. This is probably one of the more exciting things as the energy audit happens. So on the slide in front of you, you've got a picture of an energy advisor who's got a blower door system. And basically what that does is it depressurizes the home and it shows us where air is coming in. So once the energy advisor sets up the blower door, they will walk around and start feeling around outlets, around different penetrations, around your windows and doors. And if you walk around with them, you will actually be able to feel where air is coming in if your home is leaking. You know, common offenders, again, are outlets and exterior walls, anywhere where there's a hole in your building, for instance, where your plumbing stack leaves or where you've got your furnace vents, any of those penetrations have the opportunity for air leakage. And so by walking around and actually feeling, you can either DIY and start to address some of those air leaks on your own with some caulking and sealants. And certainly if there are any large gaps, that's something that you can address with an insulation contractor. A lot of insulation contractors will do some comprehensive air sealing for you if you request it. Not always standard, but certainly something that you can look for. And there are, in some cases, actually independent contractors that will come and do comprehensive or blower door assisted air sealing. So again, where they'll set up this blower door, they're walking around, they're feeling, and they've got gaskets and caulkings and sealants that they can sort of fill gaps as they go. But again, a lot of that stuff can actually be done DIY. I happen to be married to somebody who I feel like all winter long walks around with a can of caulking and is just constantly air sealing. So I know it can be done by yourself. All right, and now lastly, I guess really is about the resources. So, you know, where do you get information? How do you know where to start? Who do you call? So really your energy report and the conversation with your energy advisor is the best place to start. That's going to give you your whole home, the picture of your home, what's going on in your home. It is tailored to you, again, with your concerns. And it is literally just that picture of your house and what's going on. And of course, that upgrade report is super beneficial because that's going to tell you really the biggest bang for your buck, the biggest areas that you can see for improvement. And I think, you know, in this particular case, especially knowing that there are rebates and incentives available and that most of these energy audits are going to come back to you at low cost or free, there's no risk in getting an energy audit done. You're just getting information about your home. Coming very soon, very excited about this, is the Better Homes Ottawa website. This is modeled after the City of Toronto's website, their Better Homes Toronto website. Ours will be fully customized to contain content that is relevant to the residents of Ottawa. We expect this to be your one-stop shop to find contractors, to find information about rebates and incentives and financing options, tips and tricks, DIY videos, as well as webinars and workshops similar to this, where we can actually get some conversations started with the residents of Ottawa. And so that site, we are hoping, will be live in end of July this year. We are actively working on it alongside with some key partners and the City of Ottawa to develop that content. Natural Resources Canada, they are a huge source, a huge resource. Tons of information on their website, a little dry, I must admit, but it is full of information. You just gotta know what you're looking for. I encourage you to use the search function there, but anything from LED lights to, again, appliances, incentives available for those insulation upgrades, and resources to get you to your energy auditors is key as well. Of course, Enviro Centre is a service organization with Natural Resources Canada, so you can always contact us to get an energy audit done. That being said, Natural Resources Canada is for the whole country, so certainly a good resource if you're looking at something outside of Ottawa proper. And yeah, again, more access to all of the grants and rebates that are coming. Contractors are another great resource. You know, you've got to trust your contractors. Again, we always recommend getting 3 quotes, but you need to trust your contractor, and you'll get that sense from them. It's not always about the dollars and cents. It is often about working with a contractor that really understands what you're trying to achieve. So recognizing that different things motivate different people. Again, it may be a comfort issue. You're in an older home and it's chilly and you've always got a cold, and maybe you've got asthma because, you know, you're getting air leakage constantly, or your indoor air quality is poor. So yeah, using your contractor is definitely the best place, or one of the best places to go. And again, cross-referencing those against other resources like the Better Homes Ottawa website or Natural Resources Canada. And there are other groups within the city that offer certifications. So you may be looking for something like the RenoMark certification, or maybe you're going to the BBB to see what kind of business they are and look at some ratings. But again, the Better Homes Ottawa website will provide you with access to some reputable contractors that have been vetted, who understand house as a system as well. Really key. Again, you don't want a contractor coming in and saying, well, just throw a bunch of attic insulation in and not addressing any of the air leaks that are up there or any of the ventilation requirements. So it's key that you have somebody who understands and potentially even has energy auditors on staff. And then lastly, your community is another great place. So talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends and neighbors. If you see them and they've got contractors over, ask them what they're doing, what's going on. Are they happy with their contractor? Did they have a good experience? What were some of the challenges, lessons learned? You know, not all renovations, I'm sure people know, go according to plan 100% of the time. And so, you know, hearing what other people in your community have done is often a really great way to get a sense of what you can do and avoid some of those pitfalls and learn from your community members. Not to mention, we've got some amazing community associations here in Ottawa. And so if you're a member of one of those, you'll start to see more and more information from your community associations about energy efficiency and accessing the Better Homes loan in particular, Better Homes Ottawa. Really, you know, we're in it together as a community, and that will be a great resource for a lot of people to gain access to information. And so with that, we're only about a half an hour in, but that is the bulk of the presentation, and I'm more than happy now to open up the floor to any questions that we might have, or go back over any of the information that I presented. So thank you, everyone.
Hi, Mel. It's Mandy.
Hi, Mandy. I should shout out to Mandy as well in the background, who runs all of our events, and she hides behind the Enviro Centre logo. But thank you, Mandy, for all your support.
I'm just going to go over a couple of questions that have come up in the chat, and then of course we'll open it up for folks to ask their own questions.
Great.
So one of the questions was, I have a builder building a townhome for my family in Carleton Place and want to know how Enviro Centre can help in assessing and advising on further greening the new build. They reached out to Ontario Green Savings and noticed that there are similar companies.
Sure. So an energy auditor can work both in existing homes and in new construction. Enviro Centre certainly has the resources available to come out and have a look at the plans for the building, review all of the specs, and provide you with information and recommendations. There are also other organizations within the city that focus specifically on new construction. I guess maybe a question back to the person is the house currently, does it have a rating? Is it going to be built to an Energy Star standard or an R2000 standard already? Or is this sort of just a track built home with no guaranteed built-in energy performance systems? And I can wait for that answer. But the long and the short of it is yes. Any energy advisor and Enviro Centre certainly could help you out with having a look at what those systems are, looking at the opportunities for energy efficiency. If the home should be being built to code, so insulation and air sealing should be in good shape. Really, now you're just going to start looking at the mechanicals. So clearly, if you have the opportunity to just move straight to electricity, that would be your biggest impact right off the hop. But it certainly does depend on how far you are down that construction path.
So shout out to Chris Habits for answering questions on our behalf during the presentation. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, Chris is amazing. I was very happy to see him pop up, but he's exactly who I said don't come to this workshop because he knows all of this stuff. But I always appreciate Chris jumping in because he's very knowledgeable and actually very soon to be an energy advisor here with Enviro Centre. So welcome, Chris, and thank you for the support.
So thank you, Chris, for answering some of the questions. So I'm just going to go, would Better Homes Ottawa resource work for neighboring towns such as Lanark County?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about, we talk about Ottawa proper, but we know that really we're looking at Eastern Ontario. And so certainly, I mean, the Better Homes Ottawa loan program would be specific, I think, just to Ottawa, but certainly any of the other rebates like the federal government greener homes and like utility incentives would apply to all of Eastern Ontario as far as I'm concerned. And again, we can always point you as well to other municipality websites. So I know Kingston is working on some stuff. Obviously, Toronto has some great resources, but I would say for sure, we focus heavily on Ottawa because that's where we are. That being said, we know that all of the communities that surround Ottawa are equally important. And at the end of the day, we've all got a part to play.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I have heard that a heat pump is only good to about -16. So I would have to keep my furnace also. Do the two machines work cooperatively or do I have to switch between them? How does this work?
That's a great question. And if I steer anybody wrong, I'm sure one of my technical people on the call will support. That being said, so air source heat pumps have come a long way. We've got cold climate air source heat pumps now that work. In fact, Enviro Centre in our building that we sold in January used air source heat pumps for cooling as well as for supplementary heat, and we never had any issue. We did have our backup boiler system. So two answers, I guess. No, you don't have to switch 100%. You can keep your furnace as a backup heat source. That is often recommended, but it's actually not 100% necessary. So one of our colleagues, who I was sort of quoting earlier on his replacement project, has done away entirely with natural gas, doesn't have a natural gas bill anymore, and has had no issues keeping his home comfortable and warm in the winter time, and has had no issues. So again, I think the technology has grown. Reach out to a contractor, obviously look at your home. Every home is different. So, if you've tightened up your envelope and you're not leaking air in the summer and the winter, that's your first step. And then those air source heat pumps, like I say, have come a long way. And in fact, we will be having more workshops as we progress through this series. The goal is that we will get more in depth into some of the different systems that we can use. So I see again, Nick from SmartNet Alliance is on the call. He's got some great partners and members of his team that focus 100% on HVAC systems, your heating and your ventilation and cooling systems. And so we expect that we'll have more workshops that focus specifically on the technology. But a lot of talk these days about air source heat pumps, and I would suggest that they've come a long way, and now we've got these cold climate ones that work quite well in Ottawa.
So Chris, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just quick, code hasn't caught up to the heat pumps being able to take care of minus 30-degree weather yet, so code will require a backup heat source. I'm an engineer as well that does this, and I put in electric backup heat normally wherever I can on top of the heat pump or around the building, and it almost never turns on, but code requires it. So
thanks, Chris. I am definitely not a code expert. I'll have to get there.
Next question is, if we are trying to switch from natural gas to electricity, isn't that an issue with working with Enbridge? I think their rebates are tied to a homeowner being a natural gas customer.
Yep. So my advice to people is access the Enbridge gas rebates while you're an Enbridge gas customer, and use those rebates to tighten up your building envelope. So focus on, and in fact, Enbridge has changed their rebate structure so that you focus on the envelope. Replace your windows and doors, increase your attic insulation, do that comprehensive air sealing. At that point, you've received your rebates from Enbridge Gas, and there's nothing stopping you from moving off of Enbridge Gas and onto hydro, and then you're going to start to access the Greener Homes program at that point, and you'll address the next series of upgrades. And in fact, that program will cover fuel switching and all fuel sources. So that's pretty key. So access those funds. And then when you're ready to start moving down that path a little bit further to the net zero, that's when you're going to access the Better Homes loan program here in Ottawa. So yeah, you can navigate. You're absolutely right, though. If you're not on natural gas now, you can't access the Enbridge gas rebates. So again, a little bit of a stepped approach there.
Does EC have a list of contractors that they are currently recommending for retrofit work?
So here's the trouble with that. As a third party, Enviro Centre actually cannot recommend a contractor. That is just a conflict of interest with us with Natural Resources Canada. That being said, fantastic new initiative by Enviro Centre and its partners will be the Better Homes Ottawa website, which will provide you with access to some contractors that work in our field that have been vetted, that we know have good insurance and a good track record, and certainly ones we've worked with. But unfortunately, as a service organization, we can't do that. So we'll find a loophole and create a new website, and there you go.
And what about heat pump installers? Would that be a similar answer?
It would be, and I know Nick, again, I'm not sure, you just had a workshop on heat pumps. Perhaps you'll be having another one. As I mentioned earlier, my goal with this series was really to start out with this basics. And by basics, I mean, it was real basic. I'm just giving you the stepping stones. And the goal would be that we would have increasingly more technical workshops. So we would have probably workshops on heat pumps where we would have reputable contractors there. But certainly looking at the Greater Ontario Home Builders Association, they've got a Reno mark where they're recommending people. And again, I think, asking friends and neighbors is key. Not all furnace contractors have embraced this technology. You'll certainly start to figure them out pretty quickly as soon as you start talking to them.
Great. Okay. More questions. This is a lively bunch. Thank you, everyone. 2 questions about domestic hot water. 1, thoughts on hybrid heat pump hot water heaters. They seem great in the summer since they pump out cold air, but not great in the winter. Are they still good if you run them as a regular hot water heater in the winter? And 2, are drain water heat recovery pipes as good as they claim?
All right. So I'm going to skip to the second question because I know the answer to that. And it is yes, they are as good as they claim. They work quite well. That being said, the less water you use, the less effective they are. But certainly they work really, really well. There are, I believe, still incentives available for those. And in most cases are easy to install in an existing home. So it doesn't have to start from construction. I've seen some Centuries homes have those installed. And so the idea there is you're harvesting the hot water that's coming through your drain and not just letting it flush down. You're actually harvesting the heat from that hot water. So again, if you've moved to low flow everything, you're not going to be generating as much, but they are effective.
On
So
the hot water heat pump, if you do cold in the summer is great. In the winter, you can duct them outside, which is probably what I would want to do if I was installing one. And I'm actually working on a project where we're doing that right now. So
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. I knew somebody would have the answer.
Early in the presentation, you mentioned smart systems. I can understand if you go to work during the day, kids at school, furnace turns down when you leave, comes back on before you return, also knows your bedtime and morning. Otherwise, I'm not clear of the advantage of smart systems.
Right. Okay. Again, a lot of that is going to come down to behavior. As you're seeing your energy consumed, you make a conscious decision to use less of it. I think about it as an example of like being at the gas pump. You know, as you're pumping and you're seeing the numbers turn and you're seeing gas going and you're actually seeing how much that's costing you. These systems allow you to kind of do that. And so, yeah. And then, I mean, on the mechanical side, they are just simply making your systems more efficient. The fans aren't running as often. They're maybe not coming on and shutting down. So it really does depend a lot on the behavior and more about the information. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, you know, times have changed as well. We're all home during the day, or a lot of us are home during the day now. So do those systems still work? They do. They do. And again, that learned behavior is key. I can get you more technical information on the actual specifics on how they work. But as I mentioned, I think in most cases, my thinking is it's really about that education component. If you've got kids and all of a sudden you're showing them that readout, that actual physical display of kind of what's going on. And I'm not just talking about a smart thermostat here. I'm talking about like whole home systems that look at your energy use. You know, kids thrive on that information and they don't recognize it. And so again, it's about looking and learning from your behaviors, and it just it guides you to being more of a conservationist, I guess. Oh, if there are no other questions, Mandy, I'll go ahead and let you play our outro video. But thank you, everybody, again, and really looking forward to sharing more resources with you and having a few more workshops in the coming months to get a little deeper dive into residential retrofits. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.